What's up, guys? We're back with a full slate of NBA games here on Monday, April 1st. The Sunday games went pretty well for us. We nailed both of our NCAA basketball picks. We got Purdue minus 3.5. They came through in kind of a close game, closer than we thought it would be, but not too close. Took that one down as our biggest bet of the day. We also were right on NC State. We had them plus 6.5, and they won that game outright. Honestly, watching that game, it felt like the wrong team was favored. We got Denver minus 5. They came through. The Lakers minus 5.5. That was another win. The Wizards plus 10.5. We actually ended up being off that game because of the Kyle Kuzma injury news. They got it very, very close. If you ended up playing that game, hopefully you snagged that 12.5. That would have actually gotten you the win on that one. We also nailed the Mavs minus 1.5. That was one of our favorite NBA picks of the day. Chicago against Minnesota, the over in that game did not come through for us. They only scored 210 total points. They were only one 3-point bucket away from us cashing that bet. That's a little bit annoying. We also lost that Golden State minus 8 game. The Warriors did win that game straight up, but Wembanyama had a massive game once again, 2 massive games in a row. He's going to be an absolute problem here in the future, but the Warriors weren't able to cover those 8 points for us. Regardless, big winning day for us. We'll take that. Feels pretty good. We have a great NBA slate to break down for you tonight. Time to get after it. The likes were great yesterday, guys. We had around 470. I believe that we can get to 500 today. No problem at all. Click that thumbs up button and let us know you like these videos and you want to see more. We crossed the 15,000 subscribers mark and we are on our way to 20K. We really appreciate everyone out there tuning into the channel and joining the group. We still have over 75% of viewers who are not subscribed though. It's 100% free and we'll keep you up to date with our picks every single day. These videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description to go over there and join our free email list and check out our top confidence plays on all the major sports. Comment below with all the bets you're considering today. We will give you our best intel we have on them and we respond to absolutely every single comment. Also give us anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. Now let's jump into our first game of the day. We've got Portland going up against Orlando. The Blazers come into this game in something of a bounce back spot after just getting blown out by 60 points by the Miami Heat. Portland did not keep things even remotely competitive in that game. This was not even a full strength Heat squad, so that's pretty embarrassing. Yeah, it was a road game, but like, who really cares? There's no way you can keep any self-respect if you're getting blown out by teams by 60 points. In that game, we saw Scoot play 41 minutes, so they're really leaving him out there, letting him work through his mistakes, and he had plenty of them in this game. He did shoot 8 for 18 from the field overall, but concerningly, he was only 1 for 5 from 3. If he's unable to develop a 3-point shot, he's not going to be able to unlock his full potential. Obviously, across the board, there's not going to be anything positive to look at from Portland in this game. They got absolutely trashed. The Blazers are having a very rough time right now just in general. They've lost their last 9 in a row, 9 of their last 10 overall. This team doesn't play any defense. They're not a very good home team. They're not a very good away team. There's just not a lot of positives to find about this squad. Obviously, they're just trying to build for the future right now, but that future is starting to feel further and further away with every missed Scoot Henderson 3-pointer. The guy's got a great motor. I'm not trying to like put him down or anything. I could still see him emerging to be an amazing offensive and defensive player just in general. The guy plays hard. It seems like he really cares. He's dealt with a bunch of weird injury luck this season. It's great to see him able to pile up a bunch of minutes now, but he's just not looking that good. Coming into this game, we definitely see some injuries for the Blazers. We've got Anthony Simons out. We've got Jeremy Grant out. There's really no reason for them to be rushing these guys back for these games. Obviously, Portland is just trying to tank out the end of the season here. They're not trying to win games, and they're going up against a team that's actually trying to win games and has a lot to play for in the Orlando Magic. The Magic come into this game fresh off of an absolute blowout win over the Memphis Grizzlies, obviously a team they should be beating, and they were in a bounce back spot after a very close, very, very annoying loss to the Los Angeles Clippers. Orlando comes into this game. They're currently sitting in the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're a game and a half up on the Indiana Pacers, but they definitely have their sights set higher. They could get all the way up to the 3 seed if the things break right for them and if they can win some games. Orlando hasn't really felt like a great team for me going up against elite competition, but elite competition is not what they're facing in this game. Orlando is fully healthy for this one. Absolutely no important people on the injury report for this game. In their blowout win over Memphis, we saw the whole team play pretty well. Obviously, that's what you're going to see in massive blowouts like this. The bench looked really good. Orlando shot 50% from 3-point range in that game. They got to the line, knocked down their free throws. They didn't really have to dominate the boards, but they're definitely capable of it. They had 15 turnovers in the game, so that's a little bit of a concern, but just in general, their defense was very good. They had blocks, steals. They looked great. Not really going to pick through the box score in a blowout here, but just in general, we can feel like Orlando comes into this game playing very well. The odds makers also think that Orlando's playing great in this one and have a huge advantage. The Magic are minus 15.5 in this game. We don't exactly love that number. That is a very, very big number. What we're looking at more in this game is the over-under, but we have some trends to take into consideration. Orlando is 25-12 against the spread playing at home. I know this is a huge number, guys, but I'm actually going to be taking a taste of the minus 15.5. I'm also going to be taking a small taste of the under in this game. I don't think Portland's going to score very many many points. They're having a really hard time putting any sort of competitive roster out there, and Orlando does not seem ashamed of blowing out bad teams. They just absolutely destroyed the Memphis Grizzlies like we were talking about. So we're going to take a taste of the under, since Orlando is a nearly 60% to the under team at home, and we're going to take Orlando minus 15.5 because they are a monster team against the spread playing on their home court. Next up, we've got a battle of two very poor teams. We've got the Memphis Grizzlies going on the road to take on the Detroit Pistons. Memphis comes into this game fresh off that blowout loss we were just talking about to the Orlando Magic. They did not look good in that game. We did not see Desmond Bane suit up, and there's really no reason for anybody to be rushing back to get on the court for this team. We saw Jaren Jackson Jr. score only 4 points. 4 points, guys, in a 26-minute outing. He did not look good at all, doesn't seem very interested. It's actually a little bit concerning, his response to this poor season. I don't expect miracles from the guy, but I at least expect him to be going out there, putting in some effort and trying to at least put up some personal numbers in these games, but he is not really doing it. He's lost a lot of respect in my eyes. I used to think he was a much better player than this season's made me feel like he is. That could all change, obviously, when this team is healthy and playing hard and competing for games. He has not been part of that competing process, though. Looking at the injury report for this one, we see the Grizzlies are riddled with guys probably sitting out this game. We have Bane likely out, Vince Williams Jr. likely out, Santi Aldama, he could be out. He's listed as day-to-day for this game, and John Conchar is probably out as well. Just in general, the Grizzlies are not trying to put a competitive team out there. They're not trying to win games right now. They're just tanking things out, and they're going up against a team that may be doing something similar. They're taking on the Detroit Pistons. Detroit comes into this game actually fresh off a win. They got a solid win, although very low scoring, 96-87 on the road over the Washington Wizards. In that game, we saw Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham both play relatively well. Cade was a little bit inefficient from the field, going only 13 of 33 overall, but he did score 33 points in that game, and I have absolutely no problem with him taking a ton of shots on this team with its current roster. He just needs to be getting those reps in and trying to improve as much as he can to hopefully lead this team out of the absolute abyss of terribleness. Monty Williams seems more obsessed with being upset at New York teams than he does about improving this team and helping them be able to win. All the rumors about him trying to coach so badly that he gets fired and can just continue to cash in on his massive contract make more and more sense as every game goes by. Regardless of all those issues, Detroit is definitely a team that has some solid pieces on it. Like I was just talking about, Duren and Cunningham are very good players. I think they could be monsters over the next few years of their careers. So I think this team actually has some light at the end of the tunnel. Looking at the trends for this game, we've got Memphis. They're 21-17 against the spread on the road. Not exactly amazing numbers. We also see the Pistons are 18-19-1 against the spread at home, so not terrible, but once again, not something that's going to give us a massive lean. In this game, we're seeing the Pistons are minus 3 points, playing at home in this one, coming off a win. As long as we see Cade and Jalen Duren play in this game, we really like the Detroit Pistons. Cade is technically questionable due to left knee injury management, but I would really hope they would play him in this game. Like, the tanking gets a little bit out of control here at the end of the season, so keep an eye on the injury report. That could change, but I think it's likely that we see him play in this game. We see Memphis is a solid over team, and Detroit is a solid under team, a very solid under team at home. They're nearly 60% to the under at home. The total in this game is 213.5. Memphis is very banged up in this game. They just got blown out. I don't really see them bouncing back well from that. Give me a taste of the under to go along with the Pistons minus 3. Next up, we're looking at one of the more lopsided matchups on this slate. We've got the Boston Celtics going on the road to take on the Charlotte Hornets. Boston comes into this game fresh off of a solid win over the New Orleans Pelicans. Apparently this team is interested in winning some more games this season, even though they pretty much have that top spot in the Eastern Conference locked up. Very embarrassing to see them lose back-to-back games at Atlanta, but I guess they're kind of trying to get back on the right track right now. In that win over the Pelicans, we saw the Celtics have to claw back from an early deficit. Jason Tatum scored 23 points. All 5 Boston scorers scored in double figures, but they were down by 9 points in the first quarter. They made a solid second quarter comeback and ended up eventually winning the game. It was a fairly competitive game, don't get me wrong, but if Boston's supposed to be this super team, man, they just didn't look like it to me. They did make 40% of their threes, and that's kind of their whole game at this point, which is weird given their personnel, but whatever. If that's the way they're going to play, that's the way they're going to play. They did smash the Pelicans on the boards, which is a bit reassuring. We saw Porzingis actually crack double-digit rebounds, which is nice to see for the Celtics fans. They played decent defense and all of that, but you have to look at the fact that this is a Pelicans team that doesn't even have Brandon Ingram, so Boston really should be winning games like that pretty convincingly. The fact they only scored 104 points despite making 15 three-pointers, pretty concerning to me. In this game, they're taking on an absolute cupcake opponent in the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte comes in this game fresh off of a 12-point loss to the Los Angeles Clippers, so they kept things at least a little bit respectable in that game. We did see Bridges score 33 points, and honestly, the Hornets putting up 118 points is a pretty good outing from them, even though it came in a loss. Brandon Miller continues to play well. We have very, very high hopes for him. I've definitely got lots of stock on Brandon Miller Island. I think there's a good chance that he ends up being a very, very plus type NBA player, but can he really drag this team out of mediocrity? That's going to be interesting to see. That is a very, very tall task. Across the board, we actually like how the Hornets played in that game. They shot 50% from the field overall, nearly 45% from three. They made 23 three-pointers in that game. They did shoot 52, so they're really letting it fly. They weren't very competitive on the glass, though. That's a concern. They had only 9 turnovers, which is nice. Just in general, they played relatively well, and we kind of like the direction they're going in, I guess, overall. Obviously, they are tanking out this season, not really trying to win games, but at least they're trying to keep things relatively competitive. Charlotte is relatively healthy for this game. We do see that Boston has Porzingis and Jaylen Brown both listed as day-to-day. Brown is questionable, dealing with a sprained left hand, and we see Porzingis is questionable due to right hamstring injury management. So I think there's a decent chance that one or both of them could sit this game out. You're going to want to see the injury report, but given this big spread, I think it's likely that at least one of them plays. Looking at the trends in this game, we see Boston is 19, 17, and 3 against the spread on the road. Not exactly a great number. Charlotte is not very good at home against the spread, though. They're only 15 and 20 against the spread at home, and they're 8 and 5 against the spread on no rest. Obviously, they played that game against the Clippers yesterday, so they're going to be playing on no rest, where they've actually been pretty decent. They're getting 17 points in this game. Guys, I know this feels weird, but we are definitely going to be on Charlotte plus 17 in this game. I don't think Boston is really playing very hard right now. I don't think they care too much. I think they got that win over the Pelicans mostly to just get the media off their backs for those 2 losses against the Atlanta Hawks. I don't think we see Boston come out and really play great in this game, so definitely give me Charlotte and the points in this one. Looking at the over-under, we see that it's 218.5. Boston is a slight over team when playing on the road. Charlotte is a slight under team overall when playing at home, but they are 61.5% to the over when playing on no rest. Definitely give me a little taste of the over in this game. Charlotte's coming off of a high-scoring game, so maybe we see another high-scoring game from them. The over is not going to be my biggest bet on this game, though. We're definitely going to be on the Hornets plus 17. It's a ton of points, and I think they find a way to keep this game kind of competitive. Next up, we've got the Brooklyn Nets going on the road to take on the Indiana Pacers. Brooklyn comes into this game fresh off of a loss yesterday to the Los Angeles Lakers. We got that one right, put that one on the board. Lakers minus 5.5 came through for us. That was a pretty easy one. The Lakers jumped out to a big lead and then kind of cruised there to the end. Brooklyn did not look amazing in that game. They only scored 104 points against a Lakers team that's not exactly a defensive juggernaut. We saw Cam Thomas do his thing. He scored 30 points in the game. 4 starters scored in double figures, but it just wasn't enough. Miles Bridges didn't have a great shooting game, and in general, the Nets only shot 12 of 36 from 3. 33% from deep is not going to get this team a ton of wins. They did get out-rebounded by a very large margin. I think that's something we could see happen to them again in this game. Just in general, things not looking too hot for the Brooklyn Nets right now. They do come into this game fully healthy, so I guess that's something, but they're not exactly a team that we are looking at being ready to win a lot of games. Brooklyn is only 13 and 24 against the spread on the road, and they're going to have to play much better than that going up against the Indiana Pacers, who come into this game fresh off of a solid 19-point win over the Lakers. The Pacers currently sit in the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, so every win is absolutely vital for them. They're only a half game up on the Miami Heat. They're only 2 games up on the Philadelphia 76ers. Indiana is definitely trying to hold on to that 6th seed, if not move up in the standings. The Pacers had that crazy hot start to the season. They look really, really good, and they're starting to come together here. They've won 4 of their last 6 overall, with the losses during that stretch coming in really weird fashion at Chicago and then in a barn burner at the Los Angeles Lakers. Health has been a big deal and kind of a big problem at times for the Pacers, but they come into this game with an absolute clean bill of health. We see that the spread in this game is Indiana minus 9.5. The Pacers are 19, 16, and 2 against the spread at home. The Nets are only 13 and 24 against the spread on the road. And we see that Brooklyn, playing on no rest, is only 4, 7, and 1 against the spread. We're definitely going to be on the Indiana Pacers in this one. We like this bet a lot. I think the Nets are going to be tired and not super motivated to win games right now, and the Pacers are going to be more than happy to go shot for shot with them. They're just going to be way, way better at doing that. Looking at the over-under in this game, we see that it's 229.5. That's a pretty big number. We see Brooklyn is a slight under team when they're on the road, but they're slightly to the over when they're on no rest. Actually, significantly to the over on no rest. 58.3% is not a small margin. We also see that the Pacers are 56.8% to the over when playing at home. I guess, guys, you can give me a little bit of a taste of the over in this game if you're really, really dedicated to betting these over-unders, but I'm just going to be on Indiana minus 9.5 in this one. Moving right along here, we've got the Phoenix Suns going on the road to take on the New Orleans Pelicans. Phoenix comes into this game fresh off of a tough road blowout loss at Oklahoma City. We saw the Thunder fans boo Kevin Durant. I don't know if that was fully necessary, but regardless, they let him have it a little bit, and he did not respond great, as we actually saw the Thunder get a blowout win in that one, despite SGA not even being out there. Josh Giddey scored 23 points in that win, and just in general, the Thunder looked like the much better team. Phoenix has not been having a great time lately. They've really only been finding success against the bad teams, and that is very concerning, especially since this is supposed to be a squad that was built for like playoff competition, and you're going to get more of like a playoff level against teams that are going to be playing in the playoffs, and Phoenix is just not having a good time in those matchups. In that tough loss at Oklahoma City, we saw Beal and Durant and Devin Booker all out there, but they just didn't look amazing. KD did kind of do his thing. He shot the ball pretty efficiently from the field overall. He scored 26 points, but Booker and Beal were just not there for him. They had 15 and 14 points respectively. Across the board, the Suns just didn't play great. They shot only 44% from the field overall. They were even on the boards against a team that didn't have its full squad out there. 14 turnovers in that loss. They were fouling a lot. They just did not look good. They absolutely could not defend the Thunder on the three-point line. The depth for the Suns has really become a very glaring issue, like it kind of has been all season, but it's just kind of rearing its ugly head at this point more and more every game, it feels like. Phoenix fans have all the reasons in the world to be concerned about this team's ability to do well in the playoffs when things really matter. The Suns come into this game absolutely fully healthy, so there's really no excuses for how they played in that game, and they're going to have to play much, much better to have any sort of chance against the New Orleans Pelicans, who come into this game fresh off of a tough loss against the Celtics. Things, generally speaking, have been looking up for the Pelicans despite the injury to Brandon Ingram, but we're even getting encouraging news coming out of the Brandon Ingram situation. He's ready to do some on-court work. He did some during Friday's practice, so we could see him back on the floor before too long, although it seems like he's definitely a little ways away. Aside from BI, the only real injury problem right now is the Pelicans are going to be lacking Jose Alvarado as he tries to work his way back, but with Zion playing well, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, McCollum, Valanciunas, everybody out there really doing their thing, really looking good with the slight exception of that Boston loss. Things have not been looking bad for the Pelicans, who are currently sitting in the 6th seed in the Western Conference. They've now got a 2-game cushion over the Phoenix Suns, so they're actually in a position to really hold on to this spot and be able to avoid the play-in tournament as long as they can get a win in this game. Obviously, this game has a lot of meaning for both of these teams as they both try to avoid that very, very dangerous Western Conference play-in situation. The spread in this game is currently the Pelicans plus 1.5. Looking at the trends, we see that Phoenix is 16, 20, and 1 against the spread when playing on the road. Not great. New Orleans is 20 and 16 against the spread at home, so a much more encouraging number. Overall, looking at this game, we definitely think the Pelicans are the bigger value side. I think taking the Pelicans and the points playing at home in this one, even though Phoenix is in a bounce back spot, I think that's okay. The Pelicans are in a bit of a bounce back spot themselves. This isn't necessarily a lock, but it's definitely a game where I see a small lean. Looking at the over-under in this one, it's 224.5, so that's quite a few points, and we've got some interesting over-under trends for this one. Phoenix is 56.8% to the under when they're playing on the road this season, so that's a pretty solid lean, and we also see that the Pelicans are 55.6% to the under when they're playing at home. This is a decent sized number, guys. The Pelicans at least can play some solid defense. The Suns haven't really been shooting the ball that well. I definitely like the under here. I actually like it a little bit more than I like the Pelicans plus 1.5, so definitely give me the under in this game. It will be the biggest over-under bet that we've looked at so far in this video. Last but not least, we're looking at the Atlanta Hawks going on the road to take on the Chicago Bulls. Atlanta comes into this game fresh off of a tough loss. They fell to the Milwaukee Bucks, ending their little winning streak there where they had won 4 in a row. Atlanta doesn't exactly have a ton to play for right now. They're basically locked into the 10 seed in the Eastern Conference. Sure, they could theoretically catch the Bulls, so I guess they have something to play for in this game, but the difference between the 9 and 10 seeds for teams that really aren't competing for anything meaningful this season shouldn't really mean a crazy amount to the teams in terms of overall motivation on a nightly basis. In that loss, we saw the Hawks have absolutely no answer for Giannis. Good thing they're not going to be facing anybody like him in this game. Generally speaking, though, the Hawks did not look amazing outside of Bogdanović, who scored 38 points. He absolutely went nuts in that game. He made 5 3-pointers, went 9 of 10 from the free throw line. He even had 10 rebounds and 4 assists in that game, so a very solid double-double performance. Atlanta lost that game despite making 14 threes, going 14 of 35 from deep overall. That's a bit concerning, but they only shot 45% from the field in general, and we saw the Bucks have something of a bounce-back defensive performance. In the season series, we've seen the Bulls win both of these games. They won 113 to 118 back on December 26th. Then on February 12th, they won 136 to 126, so the Bulls definitely have held serve in this matchup so far this season. The Hawks come into this game relatively healthy. They're not going to have Jalen Johnson for this one as he continues to deal with his ankle issue. I guess he's officially questionable, but it seems pretty unlikely to me that he actually ends up playing in this game. Other than that though, clean bill of health for Atlanta, and they're going to need everybody out there to take on the Chicago Bulls, who come into this game fresh off of a very solid premium, I would say, win on the road over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chicago's a tough team to figure out. You really can't know how they're going to look on a nightly basis. In that win over the Timberwolves, we saw DeMar DeRozan scored 27 points and 8 assists. Alex Caruso went off for 21 points and a season-high 7 three-pointers. The Bulls in general shot nearly 60% from three-point range, going 17 of 29 from deep, and they went 52.5% from the field overall. Great numbers there. They won the rebounding battle against a team that I would have thought would have definitely dominated them on the boards. This is a Chicago team that every once in a while they just pop off, they beat somebody really good, and you're like, how the hell did they do that? The most meaningful games for the rest of the season for Chicago are very likely to be these games against the Atlanta Hawks or against the Philadelphia 76ers as they battle for those play-in like seeding positions, but those aren't going to really matter too much. Regardless of though, it looks like Chicago is pretty locked in right now. The Bulls will be playing on no rest in this game as that win over Minnesota did come last night, but they're against the spread. Numbers on no rest aren't too concerning. They're 6-6 against the spread without a day off overall, so that's not really too big of a lean here. Looking at the trends in this game, looking at the spread, we see that the Bulls are -2.5. Atlanta is 12-23 against the spread on the road. That is pretty freaking bad, guys. We see Chicago is 17-20-1 against the spread when playing at home, 6-6 against the spread on no rest. Like I said, I think we're going to be on the Bulls -2.5 and a small lean on this one. It's a big letdown spot for Chicago, but we're going to look at the over-under in this one for sure. We see it's at 224.5. That's a pretty big number, I feel like, for these two teams. We see Atlanta is a slight under team on the road, and we see that Chicago is 52.6% to the over at home, and they are 66.7% to the over on no rest. This feels like a little bit of a big number to me, but the Bulls are a hot shooting team right now. Atlanta is due for a little bit of a bounce back on the offensive end. So give me a very small taste of the over and a very small taste of the Bulls -2.5. That's all the games we have for today on the NBA slate. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets, and subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we will see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.